Josh is expected to serve 12 years behind bars in one of the most notorious prisons in the country, following a federal judge's sentencing. The disgraced 19 kids and counting star will serve time following charges he downloaded what a federal judge called the worst of CP. During the sentencing, the judge recommended Josh go to either FCI Seagoville or FCI Texarkana, both in Texas, depending on bed availability. The convicted sex offenders team is requesting that Josh, 34, be placed in the Seagoville facility, which has specific programs available to sexual predators, according to the Bureau of Prisons. However, the all-male minimum security prison made national headlines in 2020 for the dubious distinction of having over 72% of its population infected with COVID. CNN reported in August of 2020, as the outbreak at the prison continued to rage, at least 3 inmates had died at that point, with one of the inmates' family members calling the facility a petri dish. Beyond widespread disease, there have been a number of assaults inside the prison walls over the years. According to a release by the Department of Justice, John Hall, 27, an Aryan Brotherhood member and inmate at the facility, attacked and assaulted a fellow inmate because he believed he was gay. Hall repeatedly punched, kicked, and stomped on the victim's face with his shod feet, a dangerous weapon, while yelling a homophobic slur. The victim lost consciousness during the assault and suffered multiple lacerations to his face. The victim also sustained a fractured eye socket, lost a tooth, and fractured other teeth, the release read. In another instance, according to CBS, a correction officer was arrested for abusive sexual contact with an inmate at FCI Seagoville. The officer resigned and was sentenced to 1 year behind bars. In another instance, the Bureau of Prisons and the Seagoville warden at the time were sued by an inmate over the conditions within the facility in a civil rights action. In a complaint reviewed by The Sun, the inmate alleged that overcrowding exacerbated a number of conditions inmates faced inside the prison. The inmate, Jed Lineberry, said the overcrowding added to an increased exposure to a violent environment, among a slew of other allegations in the federal filing. His claims were ultimately dismissed since he had already been transferred to the Texarkana facility. According to the BOP website, FCI Seagoville has a sex offender management program, SOMP, and in 2018 it was estimated that around 40% of the inmates there were sex offenders. Arkansas Judge Timothy L. Brooks sentenced Josh, 34, to 151 months in prison on May 25. According to the Sun's court reporter, Josh appeared stoic as he received his sentence, which also includes $50,000 in fines. As he read his decision, the judge called Josh's crimes the sickest of the sick to the packed courtroom. He then said to Josh, "You have done some very bad things. But in your life as a whole, you've done good things. The true test of a man's character is what a man does when no one is watching." Referring to Josh's insistence that he's innocent, the judge continued, "I find it aggravating about the lack of responsibility." Josh's wife Anna, sister Joanna, dad Jim Bob and brothers Jason and James watched him receive his grueling sentence in court on Wednesday, the Sun's reporter claimed. Joanna and Jason appeared saddened by the judge's decision, while Anna and Jim Bob remained emotionless. Josh's mother Michelle and other siblings were not in attendance. After Josh is released, he will serve 20 more years of probation, and will be forbidden from unsupervised visits with children. He will not be allowed to have a computer, or view adult video of any kind. Josh was previously found guilty of possessing and receiving CP on December 9 after a nearly 2-week trial. He has been locked up in Washington County Jail since the verdict, and will soon be transferred to federal prison, where he is expected to undergo a sex offender treatment program. Prosecutors demanded the disgraced star receive the maximum sentence of 20 years in prison, while Josh's legal team begged for just 5 years behind bars ahead of the court hearing.